everyone, it's Brenna, and this is episode 4 of House of Recaps. Today I'm just going to be going over the past 3 episodes, which is House of Crushes, House of Vertigo, House of Pressure, House of Deja Vu, House of Hoods, and House of Deceit. Which, if you haven't noticed, those are the episodes that all revolve around the masked ball, so I thought I should dress for the occasion. Actually, I'm just going to take this off now. Okay, so we'll start with House of Crushes, House of Vertigo, which, like every episode, begins where the cliffhanger from the last episode ends off. So, Sibuna is in the tunnels and they're about to be crushed by this wall, but they manage to escape, yay! So as they back away from the tunnel, another recording pops out and they learn that they need to get through a hopscotch challenge in order to get through the next phase of the tunnel. So Nina starts freaking out because she's kind of just like, oh no, how many little tasks are we going to have to get through before we get to the mask? This is going to take forever, I don't want to die, and she's just like flipping out. Back around the school area, we see Jerome's private investigator lurking around trying to find Jerome, and Jerome is doing a very good job of hiding from him because he doesn't have the money yet. Then we see the scene between Joy and Patricia in the drama room where Joy is explaining to Patricia what Fabian said about the poem, and Joy comes to the realization that Fabian lied to her and that he didn't write that poem for school, and Patricia knows it was for Nina, and Joy's just in denial and is like, I don't want to believe that, and I kind of feel bad for her. Joy then tells Patricia that she needs to organize the band for the ball and that she needs to have Eddie do it with her. She wants them to hire a classical quintet, and then Eddie appears and does not seem very thrilled by that once Joy leaves. Eddie starts complaining about how he doesn't like the setting of like a fancy ball party kind of thing, and Patricia's smiling at him the entire time because she feels the same way. And I'm just like, oh, petty. Like, anytime, even if they just look at each other, it's like petty moment because they're not really a couple yet. I love them though. So Eddie agrees to help Patricia find the band, but he's looking for more of a edgier kind of music style than is what's really needed, but Patricia trusts him to do it anyway, and he ends up hiring a metal band behind her back. In the hallway, we see Jerome and Mara arguing about the money issue with the private investigator, because obviously Jerome is getting frustrated that he can't come up with the money, but Mara is still pushing him to do the right thing. And while they're talking and walking, they mention how Jerome's dad is in jail, and poor Poppy is behind them and overhears it. And you could tell on her face she's just like shocked and crushed, and I feel so bad. After school, Sibuna's back at the house, and they are loudly talking about the mystery in the main foyer hallway thing, and they don't realize Victor's there. So that was really stupid on your part, guys. Like, come on, have your secret little meetings in Nina and Amber's room like usual. So Victor obviously is beginning to know something's going on with them again. Then we find Poppy showing up in Mara's room again because she wants to talk about how her dad's in jail and that she knows, and Mara feels really bad, you could tell, and they have this really cute moment where Poppy's just like, oh, what's your dad like? And Mara tells her all these normal dad things, and Poppy's all like, I wish my dad was normal. Normal sounds nice, and I'm just like, oh, Poppy, you're breaking my heart. It was so sad. But Mara ends up agreeing to take the address that they found and to let Poppy write a letter to her dad, so it's good. Then there's a scene between Victor and Vera where Victor is talking about the Book of Isis some more, and once Victor leaves, Vera starts sending mysterious text messages to Jasper saying he needs to meet the Collector tonight. So then it's nighttime, and Jasper does meet the Collector in his car, and the Collector just appears out of nowhere, and he's really creepy. They're talking about the search for the mask, and it seems like Jasper is very uneasy around the Collector because of how scary he is. But the Collector ends up saying that the search for the mask is now a race to death. So, if Sibuna doesn't find it, they're gonna die, but if Jasper and Vera and the Collector don't find it, they're gonna die. So, that's a problem. Then it's the next day and Sibuna's at school talking about the hopscotch issue and how they're gonna solve it, and then they realize they need to consult the house, but they can't exactly do that right now because they're at school. So they're at school and they're setting up all the ball stuff, and then finally they get to go back home. They go to Amber and Nina's room, and the dollhouse starts lighting up and gives them all the animals, which are going to be the animal squares on the floor of the tunnels that they need to step on, so it was good for them. Then it's time for dinner, and the Anubis kids are all sitting there, and Fabian, Nina, and Amber are all about to sit down, but then Joy's like, oh, Fabian, come sit with me so we can talk about the ball, and he's like, eh, and then he has to go anyway, and then Nina's kind of just like, hey, but then Eddie shows up, and she's like, oh, Eddie, sit here, and I'm like, oh, this is funny. It was really amusing. It's funny, though, because you can tell Patricia and Fabian are jealous that Nina and Eddie are sitting together, because they start insulting him and trying to be like, oh, well, he's not that great, and it was funny. It's a good scene. Then after dinner, Joy and Fabian are studying/planning the ball, and Joy's trying to be all flirty, and Fabian's like backing away, and he ends up escaping to go talk to Sibuna. The dollhouse lights up again, and this time they write down all the animals so they can remember it for the hopscotch pattern downstairs. Then all of the Anubis kids have congregated downstairs and Jerome is selling dresses and masks. And Nina ends up buying a dress from Jerome because, you know, Jerome needs money to get the private investigator paid, and Mara's all like, yeah, just help him. So she's like, okay. But once Nina and Joy have both left, we find out that Nina and Joy are going to be wearing the same dress because Jerome sold them the same dress, so that's going to be interesting. Then we see Victor in the library studying the replica of the Mask of Anubis with Jasper, and Jasper's trying to kind of like lead him off like, oh, there's no such thing as the Mask of Anubis, it's a myth. So Joy and Fabian emerge from the living room area into the hallway with their books after they finish doing some more studying, I guess, and Amber and Nina are sitting on the stairs waiting for Fabian to come so they can practice hopscotch. But then Joy is acting all like flirty with Fabian and then grabs his hand, and then Nina and Amber just give her this look like, oh no you didn't, and they get really jealous, and Fabian like flips out like, and he doesn't know what to do, and it was really awkward and it was really funny. So then Joy leaves and Sibuna practices hopscotch. Then it's the next day and they skip straight to the ball. Fabian is making a speech and then he comes down and Nina's all like, good job, and then music starts playing and they start dancing and they're talking about how they're such great friends, and then they kiss and it's so cute, and I was so happy. I was like, yay, Favina's back together. Amber's reaction was priceless because, you know, she's the biggest Favina shipper ever, and she's sitting there next to Alfie like, oh, how come you don't act like this? And it was really cute. Then suddenly the ghost lady starts talking to Nina again. She's like, oh no, I gotta go to the tunnels. So she leaves Fabian in the middle of the dance and runs to the house. She goes down to the tunnels and she gets past the hopscotch in one try, which is really good. And she's standing in front of the chasm, and all of a sudden the ghost lady appears and she loses her balance and falls down. And that's when the episode ends. Okay, so House of Pressure, House of Deja Vu starts with Nina waking up, and we find out that everything that happened at the ball yesterday was all a dream. At breakfast, Fabian, Nina, and Amber are talking, and they've all had the same dream, so then they're convinced that Amber might be cursed too, but she has no tattoos, so she's safe as of right now. Then back at school, everyone's preparing for the ball, and it's all just craziness. Alfie's chasing around Trudy, trying to say that they need cheeseburgers as appetizers because they're fabutastic. Fabian's trying to compliment how Nina looked in the dream, but then Joy pulls him away before he can do anything. Trudy and Vera challenge each other to a chocolate cake bake-off, and it's all just like hectic and crazy. We end up seeing that Alfie's starting to get a little bit annoyed at Amber for how controlling she's being about the ball. And Poppy shows up and is talking to Mara about the letter, and she hasn't got it yet, so Poppy's getting really anxious, but then Jerome shows up and they're sitting there trying to, like, you know, make sure he doesn't find out. Then Patricia and Eddie are setting up these curtain things, and Patricia's on a ladder, and then Eddie shakes the ladder and Patricia falls off right into his arms, and he's all like, I knew you'd fall for me. It was so cute. Such a cute scene, and Patricia's all like pissed off and stuff, but it was really funny. Then Amber and Nina end up pulling Fabian away from Joy because he can't get the guts to do it himself because he doesn't want to hurt Joy's feelings, but they end up leaving all the preparation to go back to the house and have hopscotch practice. Then Mara goes back to the house and Victor ends up giving her a letter that is to Jerome and Poppy that Mara's going to end up giving to Poppy. Then the ceremony starts in the library and Gustav cuts the ribbon and it's all open and Favina is sitting there talking and they're like kind of flirting and it's really cute. Then Patricia's standing by herself playing around with her wrist because her hand hurts after she fell off the ladder that day, and then Eddie shows up and like kind of apologizes and starts massaging her hand, and it was really cute. Then it's time for the bake-off and Vera and Trudy face off and they do this. They cut this scene and mix it in with other scenes so it's like back and forth. But in the end, Vera wins the bake-off, but we find out that she actually cheated and bought the cake. Sibuna finds the ceremony in the library to be the perfect time to escape and go to the house, so they do and go down to the tunnels and they attempt to get their hopscotch thing right. Amber gets through perfectly, Nina messes up and has to go back, but by the time she does, the thing is like halfway down and Fabian has to go through. He ends up tripping over a root. Even though he's on his hands and feet, he somehow manages to get through the hopscotch in push-up position and they are safe and the thing goes back up and they're good. So then the three of them are all standing by the chasm trying to figure out how they're going to get across, but they can't, and they agree that they've gotten pretty far as it is for the night, so they're just going to go back to the ball and just enjoy themselves. Then we see the teachers leaving the library to go to the ball, and Jasper gets a text from the collector who's saying he wants the key to get into the library, but Jasper tries to throw him off and say like, oh no, tonight's too risky. Patricia's at the ball now and she hears a rock band warming up, and then she finds out that Eddie hired Horns of Metal to play for the ball instead of a classical quartet or quintet or whatever, and she gets really mad, so then she goes and finds Eddie, and Eddie tells her that yes, he's the one who hired the Horns of Metal. So Patricia's like really mad right now. Then Alfie shows up to the ball wearing a Frankenstein mask. Or actually, as he corrects Amber, it is the creation of Frankenstein, since Frankenstein is technically the scientist, but nonetheless Amber is really mad. But I'm kind of glad that Alfie defied Amber, because Amber was getting very controlling and he needs to like stay and be his Alfie self that he is. Then Nina walks in right into the area that Joy is, and they realize they're both wearing the same dress. So they flip out at Jerome, and then Jerome runs away, but then he comes out with Mrs. Andrews, who also has the same dress, so they get all mad, and Nina and Joy are like chasing around Jerome, who's trying to hide. Jerome ends up hiding behind a table where Mara is standing by, and he ends up seeing the letter that's in Mara's hands. And Mara has to like quickly come up with an excuse, and she's like, oh, it's a letter from Mick. And you see Jerome's kind of getting jealous. He's like, why don't you just email him? And she's like, oh, it's romantic. And I'm like, I so wish that letter was from Mick. I was so excited just at the mention of his name. And it was kind of a Mick horror moment. It's the closest I'm gonna get with Mick gone, so I was pretty happy. But Jerome believes the story, and Mara quickly stuffs the letter, which is really from his dad, into her purse. Then Victor approaches Patricia about the music, and she gets in trouble, but she doesn't rat out Eddie, even though it was technically his fault. So Eddie ends up coming to Patricia and kind of like nonchalantly beating around the bush, like thanks her in a way, and she's all like, okay, you're fixing this, I don't care, you have to do something to fix this. So they go to talk to the band and try to fix things. Then Fabian and Nina are talking about the dream and how they feel safe now, because they're like, oh, well, this isn't like the dream. There was no rock band in the dream, so Nina's definitely not going to fall down that chasm tonight. But then all of a sudden, the rock band starts playing classical music and they freak out, and that's the end of the episode. So House of Hoods, House of Deceit picks right back up the ball. Eddie is talking to Patricia, and he kind of, in a way, apologizes for what he did to the music by how he fixes it, and Patricia accepts his apology. Then Alfie and Amber are dancing, and you can kind of tell Alfie is in no way thrilled to be dancing with Amber, and at this point I'm starting to think that Amfie is going to be dead within a few episodes. Then we see Jasper in the hallway, who is confronted by the Collector, who was not supposed to show up, so Jasper is like terrified, and the Collector ends up taking the key to the library from Jasper. And while all this is happening, Trudy happens to see it and hides while she's watching the entire thing, so she might get into this soon, I'm thinking. Then we're back at the ball, and Fabian is making the same speech that he made in the dream, so this is where all the deja vu is starting. And once he's done, Nina comes down and congratulates him and says good job, just like she did in the dream, and then they're all like, wait, that's what happened in the dream, we gotta be careful. Don't do that. And we're back to Eddie and Patricia, and Eddie's talking to Patricia about dancing, and they both kind of admit that neither of them like to dance, but Eddie's kind of like almost asking Patricia to dance, but nothing happens yet. Then back to Fabian and Nina, they're talking about the dream some more, and they're like, oh, well, it can't come true because, you know, we're not going to kiss because we're not a couple anymore. But then it starts to get awkward because, you know, the way they're talking is making it seem like neither of them want to be a couple, and it makes them both kind of upset, and Nina ends up running away because she's upset and angry because she thinks Fabian doesn't like her anymore. Then Mara realizes that she has lost her purse, which has the letter, and she's freaking out. Nina ends up leaving the ball to go to the library just to, like, you know, like, vent and be alone or whatever. But that is not good because the Collector has also gone there to try to steal something. Then back at the dance, we see Patricia's from at one side of the room and Eddie's on the other near Jerome and Alfie, and they're kind of like smiling at each other, and it's really cute, and Jerome and Alfie notice, so they kind of start interrogating Eddie on if he likes Patricia, and they end up getting into a bet where they bet Eddie that he can't get Patricia to dance with him, and he accepts. Back in the library, Nina realizes that the alligator thing in the tunnel, which she also saw on a picture in the library, has to be the bridge to get across the chasm, so she's pretty excited. But before she can do anything, Victor shows up, so she hides, but she manages to escape, and the Collector also manages to escape. However, Victor does see him, and he can't really do anything about it because he runs off, but he knows of his existence, so he's kind of suspicious about that. Back at the ball, Fabian's like frantically looking for Nina. Then Eddie goes over to make his move on Patricia, and she ends up accepting, and they start dancing, and it's like really cute but awkward at the same time, but so adorable, and it was a good scene. Petty, I love them. They're so cute. My love for Petty is almost taking over Makara at this point because there's not much Makara going on in season 2, so you know. Mara's sitting at her table when suddenly she sees Poppy under the table, who has her purse and the letter, but Poppy hasn't opened the letter yet because she's nervous. But then Jerome ends up finding out that Poppy's under the table, so, you know, Poppy comes out, and she's hiding the letter behind her back, and Jerome's kind of trying to figure out why she's there, but they managed to hide the letter from him, so he's kind of just like, fine, whatever, Poppy, leave, get out of here, you're not supposed to be here. So Mara and Poppy are safe for now. Nina comes back into the ball all excited looking for Fabian because she wants to tell him her new realization about the tunnels. But while Fabian's looking for Nina, he ends up finding Joy, who is wearing the same dress as Nina and has her mask now. And the first thing that Joy does when she sees Fabian is kisses him. So Fabian, thinking it was Nina, just kisses back, but that was stupid on his part because he should have realized it was Joy. And then Nina ends up seeing, and it's really sad, and then he realizes that Nina saw and that he just kissed Joy, and he like flips out on Joy and then goes to find Nina, but Nina ran off, and then the teachers pull Fabian aside, and it's just bad. Fabina's like really bad right now. Nina runs into the hallway crying and finds Amber, and she tells Amber everything that happened, and then she runs back to the house. Fabian ends up escaping the teacher talk and finds Amber, and Amber like is really mad at him and like hits him and stuff, and she won't tell Fabian where Nina is because Nina kind of just wants to be alone. Now back to Mara, Jerome, Poppy thing. Mara is now trying to find the letter because when they hid it from Jerome, they put it on a tray and then the tray went away, so she's like frantically trying to find that. Then Patricia and Eddie are finishing with their dance, and Patricia's all like, you know, sometimes you can be a good guy, and it was so cute. And they kind of have this like awkward but cute little like goodbye thing, and then they part ways for the night. Then of course Jerome has to hold up his side of the bet, and he gets up on stage and raps "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain," which was hilarious. It was so funny. Then Alfie and Joy are standing together, and Alfie asks Joy, how do you know when someone's really right for you? And you can kind of tell that he's probably starting to contemplate whether Amber is really the right person for him to be dating right now. And of course Joy's answer is if he kisses back, because she thinks Fabian kisses back when they kissed before, but Fabian really didn't, so I think she's kind of confused right now, and you kind of feel bad for both of them because they're in a very bad place. Although there's not really anyone in a good place right now as far as relationships, except for maybe Patricia and Eddie, but they're not even dating, so I don't know. Things are complicated at the Anubis house. Nina's back at the house now, and she's all sad, but then she looks at the little door that leads to the cellar, and she kind of makes the decision that she's going down there tonight. Back to Fabian and Amber. Fabian is now like frantic, and he looks like he's about to cry because he's like, Amber, the dream's coming true. I kissed someone that looks like Nina. I don't want her to fall down the chasm. And then Amber realizes that, oh no, Nina's going to the house to go down to the tunnel, so they freak out and run away. Poppy ends up sneaking back into the ball, and her and Mara go to find the letter, but right when they see it, Jerome finds it first, and then he gets really mad at them because, you know, he realizes who the letter's from. Down in the tunnels, Nina almost falls down the chasm in the same way she does in the dream, but Fabian shows up just in time to pull her away, and it's good. And then Amber shows up, and the way that Fabian caught Nina kind of makes them look coupley, so Amber's all like, oh, you got back together, but obviously they didn't, so then Fabian and Nina start bickering, and it's bad. Back at the ball, Jerome is really angry at Mara and Poppy for going behind his back, and he's like yelling at them. Then Joy and Patricia are talking, and Joy asks Patricia if she did the right thing with the kiss, and Patricia's all just like, no, so good, Patricia, because Joy needs to, like, get some sense into her that, I feel bad for Joy, but that was, no, you don't do that. Back in the tunnels, Nina explains to everyone what the alligator is and how they're going to get across, and then she ends up snapping at Fabian because she's mad at him, even though what he said was, like, harmless. Nina ends up finding a lever to get the crocodile bridge down, and he reads it. Then Victor decides to go in the cellar, which is not good because Sibuna's down there right now. Back in the tunnels, Fabian decides to stick his hand into a little thing to pull the lever, and he ends up getting caught on something, and Amber screams and Victor hears, and it's really bad, and then the episode ends, so we don't know what's going to happen until tonight. So, alright, so comment questions for today. Do you think that Amber and Alfie are going to stay together? Let me know, and I will give you my opinion when I comment back to everyone. So as always, I'll put all my links to Twitter and Tumblr and everything else in the doobly-doo, and I hope everyone enjoys the new episode tonight. Bye!